اوكي اذا يلا نبدا نبدا الquestion. This one just here it's nothing, just we have here we have a binomial distribution. Here we have a binomial distribution. Why? Because a national poll of 600 men announced that the proportion in the survey who claimed to help their wife at home is 85%. If we took a larger poll of what will be the standard deviation of the number who help based on the first survey. Then thanks to the first survey, we know the probability P is equal 0.85. Then here, okay. Then here P is equal, here P is equal 0.85. Why? Because هنا قال لي نسبة الأزواج at home هي 85%. That's why the probability of success is equal 0.85. Here أخذنا عينة من 1200 رجل. Okay. And we request the standard deviation of the number of men who help at home based in the first survey. هذا السيرفي الأول بمعنى التجربة الأولى أو الاستبيان الأول ادينا the probability of success, the probability الرجال اللي يساعدوا زوجاتهم at home. Then P is equal 0.85, and here he requests the standard deviation when N is equal 1,200. When N is equal 1,200, then what about it's a binomial distribution, obviously, and one by one, we have to check men one by one. Then we have the number of trial is 1,200, and the probability of success is 0.85. That's why we have a binomial distribution. When we can write it just in one line, we have a binomial distribution when N is equal 1,200 and when P is equal 0.85. Then thanks to this, we can we can evaluate sigma. Sigma is given by root N. What is N? 1,200 times 0.85, which is P, times 0.15, which is 1 minus P, because once P is equal 0.85, 1 minus P is equal 0.15. Obviously, we have to evaluate this thanks to your calculator. Maybe the correct answer, حسب ما نلاحظ, is A. Any question? Then here, thanks to the first sentences, we can conclude P is equal 0.85. And here, once we have N equal 1,200, then here sigma is given by this expression. Remember, once we have a binomial distribution, sigma is given by this expression. That means 1,200 times 0.15. Times 0.85 times 0.15 in terms of square root. Any question? إذا نحاول نمر. This is the correct answer. طبعا in sometimes they write Q instead of 1 minus P. القانون هنا once Q it's equal Q means here 1 minus P. في بعض الناس اللي أو بعض الكتب يستعملوا this notation when Q is equal 1 minus P. Okay. By the way, that means we have to evaluate Q. Q is equal 0. That means in this case P is equal 0.85 as I said, and Q is equal 1 minus 0.85. That means Q is equal 0.50. طبعا here we use the same thing and we conclude the exact value of the standard deviation. Once it's clear, I can move to the next one. This is the next one. We try to do this. Then I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes in order to understand the problem. Here, from previous polls, it is believed that 66% of likely voters prefer the new poll will conduct it. In the new poll, if the proportion has not changed, that means P is the same. That means here we have P is equal 0.66. لأنه based in previous survey, we have P is equal 0.66. هنا 66% يختاروا المرشح القديم أو حاجة زي كده. Okay. Here we have a new proportion or new sample containing 500, a new pool of 500 likely voter will be conducted. In the new polls, if the proportion has not changed, that means if P is equal 500, what is the mean and the standard deviation of the number preferring this incumbent بمعنى المرشح القديم أو حاجة زي كده. What about P and what about sigma? Okay, here what is the mean of the number if the following has not changed? What is the mean and the standard deviation of the number? Here we talk about the number preferring the incumbent. بمعنى العدد اللي it's not a proportion. Be careful here. We talk about here we talk about the number. That means what is the meaning here? What is the proposed? Obviously, it's a normal distribution, but what is its mean and what is its standard deviation? This is the question. What about the mean, شباب here? حسب رأيكم كيف نجد المين؟ Here, because he requests the number, then the mean is given by the formula n times p, obviously, and the standard deviation is given by the formula root npq. That means here we have n equal, as I said before, we have n equal 500 and p equal 0.66. Obviously here n times p is large enough and n times p times 1 minus p I'm sorry, n times p is large enough, is more than 10, and n times 1 minus p is more than 10, then we can approximate your binomial distribution because it's a binomial when n equal 500 and p is equal 0.66. Then we can approximate it without any problem by a normal distribution when its mean is given by n times p. What about n times p here? N times p is equal 500 times 0.66. Then once we evaluate it, we have a normal distribution when its mean is equal maybe 330. And what about the standard deviation? The standard deviation is equal root 500 times p. What about p? As I said, it's 0.66 times 0.34 because 1 minus p is equal 0.34. Then this is the standard deviation. It's equal this value. Okay. Then maybe it's the correct answer as explained. It's A. Then إذا نلخص شباب لما يكون عندي once we have an idea about N and P لما نعرف أن binomial distribution probability هي 66% أنه يختاروا هذا المرشح القديم أو المتخلي أو حاجة زي كده. Then P is equal 0.66 and N is equal 500 لأنه حنسوي عينة من 500 شخص. but here he requests what is the mean and the standard deviation of the normal preferring the incumbent. بمعنى كم probability كم المين. هنا المين it's a normal distribution. Why? لأنه it's a binomial distribution first, but since n times p is more than 10 and n times 1 minus p is more than 10, then we can approximate, as I said before, we can approximate any binomial distribution by a normal distribution when its mean or its expected value is 500 times 0.66. That means it's n times p, and its standard deviation is root 500 times 0.66 times 0.34. Then this is the meaning of this is the correct answer. That's why the correct answer is A, because maybe this is 330 and this is, we have to check, please. It's equal 10.59. 10, you can check maybe for sure it's 10.59. من مع calculator يمكن يحسب root 500 times 0.66 times 0.34. Okay, then maybe this is the last question. No, I have one more. Okay. What is this? Here we have a communication. We have a company that 45% of email message are spam. بمعنى 45% من الايميل هما في السبام. بمعنى ما أعرف كيف نقول بالعربي سبام، بمعنى something اللي غير مرغوب فيهم، بمعنى إشهار أو حاجة زي كده، بمعنى إيميلات غير مرغوب فيها أو إيميلات داخلة أو حاجة زي كده. Okay. We suppose that randomly we select 12 messages from your inbox. نختار إذا البروبابيلتي حتى يكون سبام هي 0.45. احنا حنختار randomly كم؟ 12 message. هنختار 12 message. Then n equals 12. Then for the first one we have 0.45, for the second 0.45, and so on. That's why it's a binomial distribution when n equal 12 and p is equal 0.45. I hope it's clear. What is the requested? The requested is then for sure it's a binomial distribution when n equal 12 and p is equal 0.45. What he requests the probability that at least 7 of them are spam. Then we have to evaluate the probability to have for x at least 7. بمعنى 7 or more. Probability of x more or equal than 7. Okay. What is x? X is a binomial distribution when n equal 12 and the p is equal 0.45. ما أعرف أتصور أنه موجود هذا في التيبل. I'll move back to lecture slide. Just 1 minute. I have to open the table. لأنه in order to evaluate the probability of x more than 7, I can use the table as I said n equal 12. This is the binomial distribution. Once n equal 12, where is 12? This is 12. And what is the requested? P is equal 0.45. Then as you can see here, نستخدم قانون الباينوميال كوفيشن. يس، بس المشكل صديقي لما تكون x أكبر من 7 في x تساوي 7 8 9 10 11 12. إذن الله يعين, we have to evaluate 6 expressions then to add them. But here in this table, which is useful in this case, أمامكم الجدول شباب؟
هنا.
Here we have binomial probability. binomial probability هذا في التيبل سي. التيبل سي كله related على الباينوميال probability اللي فيه بعض الوضعيات يدينا الباينوميال probability 1 by 1. إذا هي لما n تساوي 2 we have طبعا possible values for k هما 0 1 2 for n equal 3 for n equal 4 and so on. طبعا ما يمكن يديني كل القيم بس يديني for some particular p. Here once this is the value of p. إذا لخص هذا n هذا k وهذا p. When p is equal 0.2 this is the exact the values related. Once p is equal 0.3 and so on. إذا في جدول هنا اللي يهمنا احنا when n equals 12 this is n equal 12. اوكي إذا طبعا k move from 0 to 12 لأنه ال possible outcomes هما من 0 إلى 12. اوكي probability of the possibility of outcomes هما من 0 إلى 12 لأنه once we did 12 tries that means k can take the values between 0 and 12. بس البي قلنا كم في المثال حقنا اللي نسوي فيه الحين 0.45. هل أنا موجودة 0.45 هنا شباب؟ هنا طبعا في 001 002 this is P اللي في الأعداد هذه اللي في السطر الأول هي P. then P تساوي كم؟ في 0.45 ولا ما في؟ طبعا ما في. بس once we move to the next page here n equals 12 and p is equal 0.45. Then we have to use these values, okay? Because here it's a binomial distribution when n equals 12 and when p is equal 0.45. Okay, then we have to evaluate. This is the probability of x equals 7. 7. This is the probability of x equals 7. This is the probability of x equals 8. This is 7. This is 8. This is 9, 10, 11 and 12. زي ما تلاحظوا هنا by the way شباب أحيانا فاضية معناتها عدد صغير مرة معناتها أقل من واحد من معناتها 0.4 أصفار وبعدين أعداد. لما تكون أقل لما تكون 4 أصفار we avoid this term ما نكتبه نبقى نتركه فاضي بمعنى الابروكسيميشن بعد 4 أصفار بس. إذا هي إذا تلاحظوا هنا في أماكن فاضية ما معناها أنه معناتها صغيرة مرة it's small enough. okay we can avoid it بمعنى we can neglect it بمعنى يمكن نتجاهلها أو نحسبها like 0. إذا here we have probability of x equals 7 which is 0.14 maybe. إذا النظر كويس معي 0. This is the probability of x equal 8 which is 7%. This is the probability of x equal 9 10 11 and 12. بمعنى الأعداد اللي وضعتها في الدوائر هنا من 7 إلى 12 زي ما تلاحظوا في 6 أعداد. Here once we add these values we obtain the requested. لأنه I have remember I have to evaluate the probability of x more than 7. That means it's equal the probability of x equals 7 plus the probability of x equals 8 plus 9 plus the probability of x equals 9 plus the probability of x equal 10. Let's say we have 11 and 12 plus the probability of x equal 11 I'm sorry plus the probability of x equals 12. Then we have 6 values. طبعا كلهم موجودين في الجدول هنا الست أعداد الأخيرة في الكولن هذا. اوكي نختار الست أعداد. Maybe once we do once we evaluate the addition we obtain maybe the exact value. I hope it's clear. طبعا here this is the table. طبعا يسهل لنا الحساب. We can على ما اعتقد فيها calculator يحسبوا الأشياء هذه. We can check even in your what should you do in order to evaluate this kind of expression. بس التيبل هذا يديني القيم once n equal 12 once we have k move from 0 to 12, and once p for some particular p we can evaluate it. طبعا اللي يهمنا في التمرين هذا هو الستة قيم. Here we have 13 values. اللي يهمنا هو الستة قيم الأخيرة اللي من هذا إلى تحت اللي هو حنجمع these values. Once we add them, maybe we obtain the requested. I hope the correct answer 26 or 14. 26. Okay. Here, I hope once we do the addition, we obtain 0.26. طبعا it's not 14 which is naturally أنه already في 14.8 و 7 بمعنى حيكون تقريبا 14 مع 7 حتكون 21 or 22. إذا ما حتيجي 14. إذا but by the way we have to evaluate this addition. لما نجمعهم نجد بالضبط 26%. Okay, then just the last question. Once we have, once we know P is equal 0.45, as I said before, we have the same problem. Here, after vacation, we have 250 emails in your inbox. What is the approximate probability that at least 40% are spam? Then we have the probability is what should I do? Here the probability is to have a spam is P is equal 0.45. Clear? This is P. Then what is the number of emails we have in your email? We have a sample containing 250 emails. Okay. Then n is equal 250 emails. Okay. What is the approximate probability that at least 40% are spam? Then we have to evaluate the probability of p hat is more than 40%. Then we have to evaluate the probability of p hat because he said what is the approximate probability that at least 40% are spam. That means we have p hat is more than or equal 0.4. What about p hat? We know p hat is a normal distribution when its mean is or its expected value is p and its standard deviation is root p times 1 minus p divided by n. Then here we can evaluate p is equal 0.45. طبعا n is equal 250. Then we can evaluate the standard deviation. This is thanks to a slide explaining p hat is a normal distribution اللي درسناها الحين منذ دقائق في أول محاضرة. This is thanks to this slide. اللي هو يقول P hat is approximately a normal distribution when its mean is P and its standard deviation is given by this expression. Then thanks to this, we can write the following. Probability of P hat is more than 0.4 is equal, P hat is given by this expression. طبعا once P hat is like that, طبعا here we have to move once again to chapter 1 and to use Z. That means it's equal probability of Z more than طبعا لما تكون thank you. Standard deviation is 0.31. You said P times 1 minus P divided by N. Then here Z is equal the value 0.4 minus a standard deviation اللي هي 0.45 divided by sigma. What about sigma? ما أعرف فيها على ما أعتقد صديق أعطانا قيمة السيجما. What about sigma? Sigma is equal 0.031. Okay, thank you. Then it's 0.031. طبعا here we can evaluate its equal probability of z more than this value. كم القيمة هذه؟ we can evaluate it please. by the way على ما أعتقد هذا اللي سواه في here. Once we have this, that means it's equal like that. This is the probability of z more than this expression. طبعا here نحاول نحسب القيمة هذه كم. على ما أعتقد تيجي that's why قلبت السلايد تيجي minus 1. This value is equal minus 159. It's probability of z more than 1.59 minus 159. Be careful, it's negative. Then the probability of x is more than minus 159. We can evaluate it thanks to the normal distribution هنا thanks to the table. انتبهوا probability of x any question at this level قبل ما نمر الشباب. أي سؤال في المستوى هذا أول شيء. Probability of z is more than minus 159 which is equal. We can we have this kind of property which is equal 1 minus probability of z less than 159. Okay, and this one obviously we can evaluate it thanks to the table. This one we can evaluate it thanks to the table. طبعا here we have all the requested 1 minus I'm sorry, it's a minus لأنه more than it becomes minus 1 minus لأنه the probability this is the complement بمعنى هذا المكمل. Here the probability of z more than minus 159 is equal 1 minus probability of z less than minus 159. Probability of z less than minus 159 we can evaluate it thanks to the table. في التable لما z تكون minus 159 we can evaluate it and to conclude this is the request. Then in terms of probability we have something like 0.9441 in order to have more than 40 طبعا which is natural لأنه في الافريج 45%. إذا here حتكون تقريبا 95% which is natural لأنه أكبر من 40 لأنه احنا تقريبا في between ميو minus إذا نحاول نسوي رسمة شباب قلنا الافريج 45%. أوكي احنا حناخذ من 40%. أوكي 40% هي هنا بمعنى تقريبا between ميو plus ميو minus sigma and mu minus 2 sigma. إذا something like that حناخذ all this area. المساحة هذه تمثل 94% which is natural لأنه احنا between mu plus mu minus sigma and mu minus 2 sigma لأنه as you can see sigma هي 0.31 بمعنى 2 sigma حتيجي 6 بمعنى في الوحدة في 39 2 sigma تيجي في 39. That's why we obtain this value. By the way it's thanks to the table معناتها ما فيش بس حبيت نفسرلكم أنه الفكرة منطقية. إذا لخص here أول شيء عندي n I have to write this expression because he requests probability of p hat more than 40%. After that the main important point أنه p hat is a normal distribution when its mean is p I'm sorry and its standard deviation is root p times 1 minus 0.45 times 0.55 divided by 250. كل هذا داخل الروت وبعدين we close the parenthesis. Maybe it's time to close this chapter. I don't know if we have any question. طبعا once we have this we have to move back to chapter 1 and to do the remaining part as I explained it. I hope it's clear.